In this video, I will teach you a very simple rule. And if you just follow this rule, you will win way more games. And before I get into the video, I wanted to do a quick shout out to Adam, who followed this exact system and he won 3 out of 4 games in his recent tournament. Also a quick shout out to Brian, who watched my previous video, went online, used this system and immediately won his game without playing a single mistake or blunder. So what is this exactly? Let me demonstrate that by playing against the Francis bot, and I will be playing with the black pieces. So the simple system we are going to follow is that we are going to play solid moves only. So every single move we make is going to be solid. We will only play moves of which we are 100% sure that they are not a mistake or a blunder. The opening here, I'm just going to play the Scandinavian, but honestly, it doesn't matter too much because you can play any opening you want. This is more so about the middle game. So we're just going to go through the opening a little bit quickly here. So we're going to play solid moves only. And I know it might sound easy, but I will demonstrate to you exactly what that is going to contain. Also, on the previous video, I got a comment by somebody asking me, you're telling us to play solid moves. You're also telling us to play moves that improve our position, but how exactly do we know which moves are solid and how do we know that a move improves our position? Well, we're going to get to that in a moment. First, we have arrived here at this point and I'm going to castle, and from this point onwards I will be using this strategy. Very quickly, for those that are interested and haven't really been able to follow along, we are just playing simply the Scandinavian, basic Scandinavian theory. If you are interested in this opening repertoire is also on my Patreon. White gives us the opportunity to exchange the bishop. We will do that. We have to play c6 so we don't fall for a trap here, and then at the end of the day we are in this position. And this system, this thinking system, this rule is very important for the middle game. So we want to play solid moves only. So right now, this exact position is not something I remember because h3 and a3 combined, I mean, I haven't really studied this, of course. This is a bit of a strange way of playing by the Francis bot. So we have to find good moves in the middle game. So the first thing we want to do is we want to play solid moves only. So I am only going to play moves of which I am 100% sure that they don't blunder any material. The second thing is I only want to play moves that improve my position. Okay. So the main thing that I like doing is moving pieces first before we start moving pawns. Because if you move a pawn and you, in the end you realize it was a bad move, you can never move back that pawn. If you move a piece to a bad square, you can always move it back. So first I will be looking at how can I further optimize my pieces. Right now, one of the problems in this situation here, in this position, is that these pieces are right now pretty inactive. And that is one of the ways I am trying to improve my position here. I want to improve these 3 pieces and do something with them. Also, currently I do have some opportunity here of playing on the d file, but my own knight is blocking me. Also, this knight has no future. And yeah, so this knight also not really doing much. So if I'm looking at this, I'm basically checking, is there a way I can improve these pieces? So logical moves would be developing the queen somewhere, but of course queen c7, which is a very common plan, is impossible. We want to check before every move that we don't make a blunder. You could play queen b6, would probably not be a bad move since we're activating the queen, also attacking this weak pawn. So I think that would be a fine move. Queen a5 doesn't accomplish anything. So I already realized queen b6 is possibly a good move. And I am 100% sure that this move doesn't blunder because I can quickly check and I realize, well, this move by my opponent didn't really threaten anything. And yes, my queen can get attacked. But I can always move it again, so not really any worries. Let me just demonstrate that quickly. For example, queen b6, if they attack my queen, I don't really have any issues. I can always go back, go here, or even go to b5. So not really any problems. If you are playing a game with a very fast time control, sometimes the first move that you find is going to be the move you have to play. So in that case, you could just play here queen to b6. One other thing that I am thinking of here is there a way I can improve my minor pieces? And since I would maybe play queen b6, I don't want to put this knight here. So it would be fun if I could replace this knight with my knight on d7 and then use this knight for something else. And the most logical approach, of course, would be to play knight to d5. This 100% certain isn't a blunder. Also, I'm attacking the knight and the bishop. In the future, I might be able to play this knight here. Yes, my opponent can take me, and then I just get a better pawn structure and also a open file to work with. And that is why here I will play knight to d5. Also, of course, I know this opening very well, and I already know that knight to d5 is one of the standard middle game plans in this particular position. After every move your opponent makes, you have to do a quick blunder check. So my opponent just played rook to e1. Before we do anything, always make sure, what does this do? Well, this attacks the e-file, it also attacks our bishop, indirectly of course, because I can already imagine if white ever takes here on d5 and I have to recapture, this would be opened up. But of course, a move like rook e1 also doesn't threaten anything immediate. So we want to play a new solid move that also improves our position. And I hope you can agree that we have a very easy plan here, and that plan is just to play knight to f6. Very solid, we are improving our knight, opening up our queen, and this was our plan from the beginning. White is attacking this. Again, quick calculation, what happens if they trade? If I just play a bad move, this would be a bad example of a move. Does anything happen? Maybe they can go for a checkmate, but yeah, there's not really any problem, of course, since we can always capture this. Why do I also say that something like this would be a bad move? It's not super bad, of course, but at the same time, just moving a pawn doesn't really improve our position. Plus, as I said before, I try not to play any pawn moves if I don't need to play them. So what are some solid moves here? Well, we still have this plan, playing queen to b6. We have talked about this before. You could also think maybe I will play rook to c8. I think that's also decent. Other than that, I don't really see much. I'm not going to do anything with this knight. I'm already happy that I improved it. You could say, well, maybe you can go in here, but there's no reason to do this immediately. The knight wouldn't really be doing anything. And also, this pawn that is protecting it is actually not super safe. And now I am kind of helping white. I'm helping white to start an attack and also to have pressure on this knight. So I don't want to do that. I only want to play moves of which I am 100% certain they are very solid. So one of my main ideas is queen b6 or developing the rook. I think both of those are fine, but I will play rook to c8 because I don't like this idea that I am blocking my own pawn with my queen for now. Maybe I'll play it on the next move, but I'm going to start with rook here. White is trying to set up an attack. So white plays knight g5. You can already see there is some pressure here. And of course, I have to be really careful. Let's say I play queen b6 right now. You can already see the evaluation bar. I hope you spot the simple tactic. White can take here, and if I recapture, we get checkmated. So this is a good moment that we have to realize that white's move did make a difference. So now we have to choose how we are going to deal with this. We can basically play pawn to h6, kick away this knight, or we can play pawn to g6. We do have to be careful if we play pawn to h6. It looks very easy. You might think, well, they are just going to move back, but there might be some tactics here for white. For example, what if they take this? Because of course, if you make the mistake of capturing on f6, you are checkmated. So you have to calculate the line h6 takes, meaning we have to take this, this, this. And that means we would end up with this pawn structure. And I'm not saying that's terrible, but yeah, this is probably not what we wanted. We can also play pawn to g6. This stops the queen's diagonal, but it also is a little bit dangerous since we are still allowing our opponent to have a knight present here in this position. And it doesn't feel super comfortable, but I don't really see anything for my opponent. So yeah, the question just becomes, which move are we gonna play? I think it depends a little bit. h6 feels better to me, but as we have just seen, in the end we get this bad pawn structure which might lead to a losing endgame. Since I don't see any problems with g6, even though I personally don't like this move, but I don't see any problems with it, so I am gonna play it. And this is being a decent chess player. I mean, even if you don't like a move because you think it looks a little bit ugly, it doesn't matter. If it's a good move, you have to play it. So we just play this. And Francis responded with pawn to c3, which doesn't really do anything. So we can basically do two things. We can either ignore what's happening here on the king side because nothing really changed, and we can start attacking here, or we can try to deal with the situation because there is pressure here. Which option is the best? You can do both things, but I will focus on stopping this attack first because of course I always want to be solid and I don't want to make calculation more difficult for myself. Because if I choose to now, for example, let's say we play queen here, I will always have to keep in mind, what happens if they push h4? What happens maybe if they sacrifice the knight? Maybe they can play f4, f5. I always have to calculate those things. So I would rather not have to do it. So how are we going to deal with this? You could think, well, just play h6. I hope you can also see the evaluation bar changing. Of course, I have said this before, we try to not move pawns if we don't have to, because otherwise you are suddenly creating many problems for yourself. For example, this, you would have to go here, queen can take, yeah, this is going to be checkmate and 16 according to the evaluation bar. So we're not going to play something like this. How can we get rid of this knight? Well, we already have the bishop and queen teamed up. We already have them teamed up. So basically, if I just move my knight somewhere, I will be able to eliminate this knight. And a very simple move that I already calculated is to play knight to d7. This also sets up pressure here. Plus, we can eliminate this attacker as well. My opponent just responded with h4, which is a little bit strange. I mean, it just allows us to take, and win a pawn. So that's pretty easy calculation. We're gonna do this. And just like that, we have basically avoided some problems, because I hope you realize that there would have been an opportunity for us to really mess up the game. We could have had a checkmate in a couple of lines, or maybe missed the knight sack, but I chose to deal with this first. Okay, now they attack my rook. I have to move it. I'm not gonna put it here because, well, I'm still on the dark squares. I'm just gonna put it here and protect. And now a4, and we basically just have a pawn up position, so that's pretty nice. What's next now that we are up a pawn? Well, I would like to start exchanging. If I could somehow exchange these two pieces, that would be really nice, because I currently also have some dark squared problems around my king, so eliminating this bishop would be very, very nice. Also, this is still looking a little bit weak on the queen side, so I might attack this. You can see I basically tried not to move any pawns, and because of that I still have a very solid and flexible pawn structure. My opponent already has some strange things happening in their pawn structure. So what is a good move? We want to improve our pieces. I think my knight is currently doing fine. It's stopping those two squares. I think my queen is also doing fine, since she is kind of guarding those dark squares. So it's about activating these rooks. This rook is already participating here, so I'm going to activate this rook. You might also start thinking about pushing pawns, but I've said this before, we are not going to push pawns. So I'm just going to activate my rook, and they retreat with the bishop. Now I have a pretty simple plan. I can basically just double up the rooks here on this file, and I am 100% certain I don't run into any trouble. White is trying to attack again, so we have to solve this. We can solve it by pushing a pawn. We cannot solve it by attacking this with the rook, otherwise we would be losing a knight, so of course calculation is still key. So how are we going to solve this? Push the pawn? I'm not going to push the pawn because I don't like pushing pawns. I'm being repetitive, but it's true. This knight is no longer needed to guard these two squares since the bishop has left, so I am going to place my knight here. That's fine. I was going to say, you might think about, well, what if they play a5? You are under attack, you have to move, and then you lose this. It's not actually true, because I did do some calculation that I didn't mention here, and that is that we can play this counterattack, pawn to a6. So instead of just reacting to our opponent's moves, we also have to sometimes do a counterattack. Now my knight is still under attack, but we can play knight here. You might think, well, you are dropping this pawn. Yep. But it doesn't matter, since the queen is pretty much offside right now. And we also have this that we can grab and then we can attack the queen. So it's a very interesting move order. Plus this pawn on a6 will be guarded by the rook. Can I show you this? For example, if I do it here, the problem is at the end of the day I lose an extra pawn. So that was the calculation that I did here. This is a little bit more advanced, but again, it's just calculation. I'm trying to make sure that we don't lose any material. So we lose this, but I will just capture this. We are back equal. They attack me, but I think I'm going to put my knight here back on c4. That was actually a very good square for the knight. I might also be able to attack the queen. Okay, and my opponent is trying to repeat move. So basically Francis is proposing us to go for a draw. I think most of you would probably be very happy. I would also be very happy to draw against such a strong opponent. But this is going to be a good learning moment. How can we push for a win here? So I'm going to push for a win because of course I am up a pawn. If I wasn't up a pawn, I might have gone for the draw. So I'm going to keep my knight here. There's no point in moving back and forth. I think these rooks are also doing a great job. I was thinking about rook to c7, attacking the queen, but we would be forgetting about this sniper bishop, so that wouldn't be so great. So all of these pieces are doing a good job. I'm not going to push pawns, so what can I do? I can use my queen. So I can basically go in with the queen and maybe try to force a queen trade. I also am 100% sure this is not going to lead to any material loss, so I'm going to try and chase the queen, trade the queen, and with the queens traded, the game becomes a little bit easier. And now pawn to b4. So we still have to try and find a way here to break through. I think it might start becoming time at some point to push something like a5, because we don't have that many pieces, and I think my pieces are already in a good position. So a5, the only thing I do have to think about is this particular line. Let's say we move the knight. You always want to be careful you don't get some type of back rank mate, but I don't see any problem. So a5. You can see the engine says it's not the best move. Maybe I am missing something that is slightly better, but at the end of the day, we have now a very easy time grabbing free material. I do have to be careful though. Don't start playing too fast because this bishop might still go here, but I can go rook to a3. So it's important to still be a little bit careful. And he plays this, attacking the knight. So we have to move the knight and also make sure we don't end up with back rank issues. So I have to do some calculation, but I don't think there's anything. Plus the knight is also guarding this. All right. Check, that's what I thought. King g7, we already calculated this, so nothing to be afraid of. And I think now it would be a good time to play something like this, and we can just try to force a rook trade. Maybe not the best move, but we already have a winning endgame. And they don't want to trade rooks, but I can actually go... no, I cannot go rook to b8, otherwise I would be losing my rook. So we have to think, how can we exchange rooks? I'm going to start with giving this check. Can't be a bad move. They go here. How can we... Maybe we can try and exchange rooks like this. Yep, that's a free exchange. And now we can just attack. I might have to start activating my king or my... Or maybe this is the moment we start pushing pawns, because of course we don't have a lot going on. Yep, more exchanges, that is fine by me. How can we make progress? Probably we have to reactivate the knight. I still have to be a little bit careful. I don't run into any troubles, but I don't think we have any issues here. Check. Still, of course, probably some of you will have to do more calculation, but I already realized I can start running here, so nothing to worry about. This pawn, by the way, is also pinned, so I will never run into any issues. Okay, but still, we have to try and finish this endgame. What are we gonna play? What are we gonna play? I think we have to start pushing pawns, probably. I try to avoid pushing pawns until you really can't do anything else, but I think right here we might just have to push. And then even, I know I'm dropping this pawn, but I'm playing a little bit more quickly here because I already see we might have some type of checkmate. Or we might be able to just push and promote. Yep, that's all right. This stops, helps the promotion. That's a free rook. And that's a queen. And that's a checkmate with the rook. Alright, so I hope this was a useful lesson for you, a little bit longer than I expected it to be, but I hope you will now realize what it means to play solid moves only and how to optimize your position. If you want to join our Chess Improvers community, definitely go to pegasuschess.com and let me know how you are doing using this strategy in your own game. That's it, bye!